Hello, everyone. Welcome back here from Cross Country Update. We are having a wonderful guest here today. I am super excited to bring this guest on, a longtime friend of mine. Herself and the entire family have been for almost close to 10 years. I'm assuming close to it. We're fortunate to work together, but as a fan, it's been awesome to watch in my early years when she was in college and, coming out of high school into college. That was the beginning of my running to kind of, get to watch her develop as a runner. And so today we have Gina Recher Rouse, or Rouse Recher, however they do that, but Gina Rouse. But a lot of you old school coaches would know her as Gina Recher. And so it's awesome to have her on here today. We're really appreciative taking the time out of your day, Gina, because you have three wonderful daughters and a husband. I'm sure he's out working right now, and I'm sure those girls are running around probably somewhere in the house ready to chime in here shortly. So
they will be, I'm sure.
They'll probably be chiming in with a little bit of their perspective of mommy. So this is a nice laid-back interview today, but this continues our week-to-week interview process with a lot of experienced athletes in our sport, and we want to get a lot of people knowledge of their background and to kind of inspire our future youth athletes. So today, Gina's on here. I kind of want to go over and paint this picture, Gina, of you first, of your accomplishments, and so that way a lot of people at home understand how long you've been into the sport and everything. So one of the things I really want to kind of talk about first is everybody here is training for cross country. A lot of you that are watching this today. So when Gina was a freshman at Farragut High School, and she is a Farragut Hall of Famer, congratulations, and also a Knoxville Track Club Hall of Famer. Tells you how much she has given into this sport. But at Farragut in 1994, she was 17th overall at the cross country state championship with a time of 19:13. In 95, she was 11th. In 96, she was 6th. And in 97, she was 4th. What is remarkable about that is her consistency in high school on how she continued to chip away at her time, contribute to her team's success and her individual success throughout her entire 4 years. Then she went on to college, where she was the conference cross-country champion. What year was that, Gina?
I think it was 2001.
2001. So from 97 to 2001, she became the conference champion. So she goes on to college and probably ended up beating a lot of those same athletes that you probably were running around in high school. Your consistency, your hard work, your training, your dedication continue on into college, where you became a conference champion at University of Tennessee, Chattanooga. She is a mock throughout her college career, and I'm sure she'll probably give a plug in there at some point throughout her entire when we talk more. And then she took some time off, went into nursing, met her husband, was going to school, took about a gap of about 4 to 6 years, but then got back into running, started running marathons, and rejuvenated her mind into the sport to where she decided one day about 7, 8 years ago, we're going to go all in and we're going to see what we really do have. I mean, we went a lot in high school. It sounded like in college, you went a lot in, but then when you got into the current, it's like, what do I have to lose? Let's go all in and go after it. To the point to where she was at the Olympic trials this past February. Who would have known that would have been some of our last races in the last 5 months? But she was fortunate enough to run in the national championship race against a lot of sponsored athletes and a lot of pros, and she finished top 35 and set a PR in the 2:30. Help me, 2:30.
238. 238 something and change. It was faster than the last one.
What was the remarkable thing about that day is the placing and the hard work and the dedication for the last 7, 8 years. she did not change a lot from high school into the pro sport. She just kept doing what always worked, which was continue to work hard every single day. And I can kind of vouch, I've seen her once or twice have a very bad workout, but I can vouch, I've also witnessed her have a very good workout and have races that did not go well like she wanted, but races that went really well. And she's a prime example today to kind of talk about that, and talk about her journey, and what drives you to just continue to get up and go. Because today, Gina, it's about instant gratification. That's what I thought. What is your driving force into, why do you like running so much? What's got you into this?
Well, Bobby, thanks for having me on your program. I'm just really excited to get to share my journey and experience. And the kids that you're working with and the kids that see this are just so lucky to get to be a part of running. It's just an awesome sport, and it's always there for us, no matter if you're 5 or 10 or 15 or 40 like I am, or even, runners that are older. But to answer your question, I just really value hard work. And that probably sounds crazy to some people, or not that much fun to others, but I've just seen over the years that just day to day putting in the work, it pays off. And you may not feel like it in the current moment, but as the time goes on, that just keeping that work in, you even doubt yourself. Is it worth it? Is it this going to all pan out? And it just does over time, and you end up getting the fruit for your labor. And that is just so fun when you can take in those accomplishments and reach your goals, and you have small goals along the way leading up to the big goal. And I think for me, the instrumental piece was having somebody that believed in me, whether it was having parents that instilled that hard work ethic in, that you've got to put in the work to get the results, but also coaches. I mean, I had an awesome middle school coach. I had great high school coaches. I had a really passionate college coach. And then I have you. And each person along the way had an element of faith in me. Maybe not necessarily in my natural God-given talent. There is an aspect of that, but I do feel like as I got into running, and I can tell you more about how I got into the sport in a minute, but as I got into running, it just became clear that putting in the miles came natural, and I liked it, and it felt good to push my body. Even if I didn't run, I think I'd wake up and I'd have to be busy doing something in the day, just because I like to stay busy and I like to put myself towards something. And so I just really value like spending your energy and towards something worthwhile. And so I've just seen that pay off through the time, but having that person that believed in me was just super instrumental to help me know, like, okay, like for you, for instance, when I met you and you told me I had a shot at making it to the Olympic trials, I mean, that was huge. That was the motivation I needed to go back all in to the sport.
Let's go back to you're an 8th grader. You're going into your freshman year, and yeah. a lot of kids on here today are going to be they're middle schoolers, elementary, and you're going into your freshman year. What's that mindset? Because did you have any thought you would be a conference champion in college, or the images of possibly winning a state championship or even making it to state? What is the mindset when you're going into that freshman year and you finish 17th, which is amazing for a freshman year? What was driving you to the sport? What was driving, getting your parents to take you to practice?
Right. Well, if I can even just back up a little bit more, I didn't start running too much before that time period. I started in 6th grade just because a friend said, hey, let's go out for track. I didn't even know what track was at that time. I was not an athletic kid, like not the gymnastics girl, not soccer, not little, baseball, softball, whatever. That was just not me. Yeah. And I maybe tried to run a mile with my dad in the neighborhood when I was in 5th grade and thought that was like marathon distance. And so 6th grade, go out for track. I'm finishing last in every single 100-meter race I tried. But in 7th grade, I went up for cross country, and it was just like instant, like, man, this 2-mile course is like totally my jam. This is where I feel like myself. Yeah. And so I just connected to it. There was a sense of like, I love to do this. Very quickly, I latched on to, there's something here that I just really love about it. And I don't know that I really knew what that was at that time, but there was an older girl on the team, and I thought, well, she's got it together. She knows what she's doing. She's working hard. I'm just going to do what she's doing.
Right.
And so I think that's why teammates, it's so great to have teammates that you can work together. And especially if there's an older one that's able to have put in some kind of leadership position on the team, and you notice what they're doing. They're doing the deflex, they're doing their striders, they're doing what the coach says to do. They're not cutting corners, they're not walking at practice. And so I quickly went from following her to, by the time I was 8th grade going into my freshman year, I was like, hey coach, I want to run with the boys. Because it was just like, the girls are wanting to walk, they're wanting to cut corners, and I don't want to do that. I want to go somewhere with this, so let me run with the boys. And then it was, well, how many of them can I keep up with? And so it became this like internal thing. I think I used that situation as an internal drive to be competitive with myself. I mean, at that point, we didn't have GPS watches. There was nothing fancy about running. I mean, coach would map out the course and we go do it. I don't even know if we wore watches at all. But but it was just a matter of, there's where the cone is. I'm not going to cut the corner.
Right.
There was a point, like it meant a lot to me to do it the way the coach asked me to do it. And so I just knew that was the way to be successful. I didn't know that I didn't really have, I was so brand new. So I just putting in the work.
Your mindset was basically, I want to train up. Whoever is better than me, I want to be like that person, no matter who it is, and what level of talent. So you go into '94, you go into your freshman year. What year you do have a state title under your belt, and the 3200. What year was that?
That was my senior year.
Senior year. So you go from 17th, 11th, 6th, and 4th. And then that following spring, you actually win a state championship in the 3200, and which is amazing. So it's like each year you're just continuing to follow that. So during the summer, let me kind of switch gears here.
Sure.
So during the summer, what was the mindset of your summer training every single year? What were you always thinking going in?
Well, I had great parents that saw my potential and saw how much I loved it, and that it was, becoming a part of me, and that it was developing, that I really wanted to go somewhere with it. And I started thinking about being a college athlete. And so, they wanted me to get some kind of high school, summer job, but they really were like, hey, if this is important to you and you're going to be getting up to train, then focus on training and we'll work out helping you out with, money for gas and whatever you need.
Yeah.
I mean, so to me, it was a priority I was like all in as an athlete and making sure that I was ready for school. But summer was just, and we didn't have the luxury of having like what we've got now with the summer programs you guys have. I mean, we did have summer track, and Marty Sonnefeld, and he was very instrumental, and I traveled some with them, and that was a lot of fun. But we didn't have a lot of these local programs that you guys have now, where you guys can all get together, and train. And there weren't any Bobby Holcombs back then.
Oh, well, there was a lot of great coaches out there. Thank you kindly.
So, but anyway, so it was just that personal drive of, okay, let's get up before it's hot out and get my 7 miles in. And, coach is going to be having camp in a few weeks, so I better be ready to go. And I'm going to want to come in on that number 1 spot, so I better be ready. So
basically now you're putting the pressure on yourself. All right. So you're working your way up. Okay. And you're putting that pressure on yourself that I have to be the best. I have to be trained with the best. So what are some of the tricks? Because every day you weren't the best, and it didn't matter what day you showed up, but there's probably days you got dropped, and you probably got dropped by people that were faster than you or slower than you in practice. But and there were just days you just weren't feeling it. What were the tricks that you did to overcome that, to kind of bounce back the next day?
Sure. Yeah, and I wasn't always like the most steady. I mean, that's tough to be mentally stable as a teenager. I mean, there were times I remember a track meet that went terrible and I walked off the track. I had a bad attitude and told my coach like, "Hey, this is just too much pressure. Like I lost to this certain person that I was really hoping to beat and I just had to take 24 hours." And I came back to practice the next day and was ready to go, but it was just, you have your moments. And so coaches get that, they understand. But I think the valuable point is doing that soul searching inside your own self,
Right.
trying to do the sport for somebody else, trying to please somebody else, trying to please your parents, please the coach, please your friends. It's not lasting. But finding that purpose from within of why do I do this sport? Why do I want to chase the goals? Like what's important to me? That is going to not fail you.
Yeah.
That like all through the time, it's gone back to why am I doing this? What's my purpose in this? And it serves you well every time.
So you were able to get back up. You've had your bad days, and you regrouped. Now you're moving forward. What were some of your best races? What was your one race that really stands out in high school? I know probably the state championship 3200, but was there any other races that that stood out in high school all 4 years and in college?
So in high school, there was a girl that consistently placed ahead of me, and she and I always went 1-2. I mean, for like a couple years, and that was pretty hard to just bear up against, having that drive of wanting to be my best, wanting to be the best, and having that competitive spirit, and then having to be okay with being second a lot. So there was a lot of like humility going on, forced humility.
Yeah.
But there was a track meet that happened. It was at Carnes track and we were running the 2 mile and I was behind her and my dad was on the back of the track and he said something like, "Hey, this is all about desire and how bad you want it." And so I went up next to her and I passed her and she totally crumbled because for 2 years prior, it was hands down, she was going to get first and I was going to get second. And so when I realized I finally got out of my comfort zone and tried to pass her and break the current mold, it was like, wow, she didn't go with me. Okay, this race is now mine and I'm going to win. And I did win. And from that point forward, it was like, now we were really racing. It wasn't just like, okay, she's going to come in first and I'm going to come in second. So that was very pivotal for me in my development to realize I can get out of this comfort zone and really like become, so it made me more of an aggressive racer and just helped me develop that even more so that when I did get to the state meet my senior year, I was ready to, okay, I'm going to try to win. And I did the 3200, the 1600 and the 800 at state. And I think I went like 1, 2, 3. I don't know for sure, but like, I mean, like first in the 3200, second in the mile, and third in the 800 or something. And I mean, I just was like, okay. So I had that experience of that one track meet that kind of like funneled into what happened at the state meet. And there was pressure there. I mean, I had already been recruited as a college athlete. I had already been talking about scholarships and, really wanting to perform well for my college coach because he had just given me this big scholarship. And so there was a lot of like pressure to perform that was there also. So that state meet was a great day too.
What was some of your mental tricks on race day or on hard workout days? You knew you had a hard workout, and on race day, what were some of the mental tricks that you would play with yourself to keep you zoned in? What
Sure.
in high school or college? What were your coaches, guiding you, or what were you thinking, and so on?
Yeah. So there were a lot of times that my nerves, my pre-race nerves and my emotions would really almost get the best of me. I mean, I would be sitting under the bleachers, like trying to calm down my breathing, trying to tell myself that I can do this, that you're strong, you've trained, you're going to be able to do it. I would bring Bible verses with me and like quote them in my head. I would listen to music while I'm warming up for my race and just trying to stay calm on the bus, going to the meet.
Yeah.
just, trying to be confident in your ability, but also keeping yourself calm, because you're just wasting all that energy just being so nervous. Yeah. So at some point you kind of have to turn that off and just know, like, okay, my coach has trained me. I've done the workouts. I've put in everything. There's nothing else I can change except for to just go through the motions. Like, it's time to do your stretching. It's time to warm up. Okay, now it's time to race. And when the gun goes off, your body knows what to do. So you just let it unfold and you let it happen. And I mean, that was the same for college workouts, and it's the same now. Because goodness knows I wake up and I haven't had much sleep with a kid, up at night, but it's like, I still have 10 by a mile to do. And you go through the motions and you do it. And maybe the first 3 or 4 reps, you feel like trash and it's not great, but as you keep going and you see in the sport that your body shows up, even when your mind isn't 100%, your body shows up and then your mind takes over. So it's like a mind-body connection that maybe isn't quite at sync when you want it to be, but eventually it's there. And so if you can just kind of hang on and not freak out in the moment and just sort of let it happen, then it's like, yes, there's where it is. I'm feeling good now. And then I can usually nail the end of that workout, and it turns out being negative splits, and it was a great day in the end.
I want to note to all middle school, high school, and even maybe college runners that may be listening in today, I don't think your coaches are going to have you do 10 by a mile anytime soon. So you may just keep that on the back burner. That might be something down the road that if you become a pro, like Gina or like
that's for the marathon. 10 by a mile is for the marathon specific.
If you become a pro and you've developed your aerobic system, your conditioning and so on, maybe down the road you'll get to do that type of workout. But don't worry, you're not going to be doing 10 by a mile anytime soon. I know some of my kids are not going to be doing that. So no worries there.
Maybe I should have used a different example, like 3 by a mile, because that's much more normal.
Please go. We're going to go with 3. I want to keep them engaged. I don't want them to 10 by miles off for my doing, so I'm going to go ahead and move on.
I was not doing any of that at that age. I think my max was like 7 miles in high school, and my max was probably like 12 miles in college. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. And so the mental side of the sport, I want to really kind of touch up on. How did you really confront the self-doubt? If anytime you ever had one, really kind of just dive into that a little bit more when, because that's something that is really, really a big player when it comes to race day and performance. I find in high school and even adults is that self-doubt changing that race plan. Was there any steps that you took to basically, hey, this is what I mean, besides being the routine and everything, in your mind, you're on the race line, how did you kind of bring it back together?
Yeah, so I think 2 things. I probably did 2 things. One, it's you either dismiss it altogether and you try to ignore it, which you can do for a time, but if you're not careful, it can creep back in. And you get to like lap 3 of the mile and you're like, oh crud, there's that feeling again. Because lap 3 of the mile is terrible. You're not to the finish, you're not at bell lap yet, but like you're now.
You have 7 girls around you.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I mean, even today, like I go to a pro marathon and I'm sitting in like the meeting the night before that they require you to go to. And I'm sitting there with like 100 other girls that are as good or better than me. They're getting paid to do what they're doing. Like they have these fancy uniforms on, and it's really hard to sit there and not think, oh my goodness, I'm the worst athlete of all of these people sitting here. How am I ever going to measure up tomorrow when we get to the line? And so that's still, I mean, even at this point, combating that self-doubt is still an issue. And I think that's what like is so important, is if you can come up with your mental tactics through, like early on, then you'll really be able to have a good game plan moving forward. So when you're on the line, like I think reminding yourself of what you've done, knowing that your coach has trained you well for your race, for your sport, and you trust your fitness. And I know that's easy to say and hard to do, but you got to trust. And as time goes on, as you repeat it, like you have several meets through the season, and maybe on the first meet, you're really tentative and you're not really sure how it's going to go. But as you keep going, each meet should show you, okay, my body performed. Even when I was a little bit freaking out, like it still happened. I still PR'd. I still hung in there, or maybe it wasn't the best day, but I placed third, and that's still better than fifth where I was last week. And you just kind of keep chipping away. So reminding yourself of what you've done to prepare. And I think too, just staying engaged in the race, as far as like mentally staying engaged, is I try to be competitive with myself. I can't control what person X, Y, and Z is doing next to me or around me, or if someone's in front of me or behind me, but I can control how we respond to it. And I mean, that's true of all of life. Like we can't control other people, but we control ourselves. And so, all right, I'm going to make sure that I'm faster on this workout than I was last week, or that's at least going to be my goal. And if I come up short, maybe there's a good reason for it.
Right.
The same in the race. Like, okay, so that person's in front of me and I'm really suffering. I'm struggling. I'm not feeling good right now. My body is not in a good rhythm. I'm not performing the way I want to, but I'm going to fix my eyes on that person in front of me. I'm going to look at their back and I'm going to go for just them. And then when I get to them, I'm going to fix my eyes on the next person. And I'm going to go just for them. And then before you know it, you're on your last lap of the 2 mile. And then it's like, hey, there's only one person in front of me. And so, I mean,
that's awesome. Now you had a lot of that. Now we'll talk about, move fast forward from high school now into the pro world. And when I say pro, leading up to the Olympic trials, you went to a 15K up in New York that had probably 12 to 14 girls in it that qualified for the trials. So that was kind of your first test. You're now with some of the best in the country, and you're only about 2 months away from the actual national championship, fighting for a spot for the Olympics, where there's going to be 200 plus women on the starting line. But rewind that, you're at the 15K in New York. And so, walk us through this is a prep race. And I know even in high school and college and even in middle school, you have what you call prep races before you get to a state championship. Well, even in the pros, they have prep races where no matter what happens, you just leave it there. But on that day, you went to that one prep race. To kind of talk about that a little bit, working your way up in that day through a very heavy national championship type field.
Yeah. There were a lot of very decorated, well-established professional athletes. I mean, they had an official leaderboard. And so that can be really nerve-wracking walking into that, thinking, gosh, I have no idea how I'm going to do. I'm in the thick of my training cycle right now. So my legs are tired. I'm tired. I'm mentally, physically, emotionally tired. But this is a really exciting opportunity to be in a big city race and with a lot of professional athletes. And so you get on the starting line, you're doing your warm up, and you see all these fancy athletes, and you kind of can get overwhelmed by, gosh, she looks fast. She looks fast. She looks fit. She's really lean. Like, oh man, they're going to eat me up. That would be the temptation. But you really just have to bring it back to, okay, I've put in all the work. I'm fit. I'm the fittest that I can be. And if I'm going to come up short today, it's only going to be because my fitness is not quite where theirs is. But again, that's not in my control. I can only do the best that I can do for Gina. And so you get on the line and the gun goes off and you let your body and your mind start doing what it does. And so I went out, and there were 2 girls that went out ahead of me. And then there were a couple girls that went out with me. And then there was a ton of girls behind me. And so it just became this like, all right, I'm going out pretty fast. Like there's not much more that I can give at this current moment, or I'm going to be putting out too much effort at the beginning and I'm not going to have any gas for the end. Right. And so I just sort of tried to stay in my current moment, the current mile. I'm like racing the girls that are next to me to see if I can sort of get an edge on them, see if they might fall back. It was a hilly up and down route. And so
Central Park.
Yes.
Great if you want to know where Central Park is in New York.
Yeah. So I tried tried to use those hills. I mean, we were from Knoxville, which is great because it's automatic hill training. And so I tried to use the advantage to my advantage to go up the hill, and maybe the girl next to me falls back. And there's my husband.
I know that guy.
And
I'll
so,
talk about him if I recall.
and so, I use that to my advantage to get up the hill, and maybe the next girl drops back from me, and then still cognizant of, hey, there's two girls that are like within, 100 meters in front of me. I got to keep my eyes on them because I'm going for the best that I can do. And the best that I can do, hopefully, is going to win. Mm-hmm. And so I go after the next one, I catch up to her, and then now there's one girl in front of me. And so it's like, all right, but the race is starting to run out. There's only like a mile left of the race. So I'm now pouring out all the rest of the gas I have in my tank to get to the finish line. And, I came short with a second place finish, I think, and I mean, that was so exciting and so fun to be on that type of level. Me, a mom with 3 kids, and I just like to work hard, but it served its purpose, and that was really fun. And it was a big PR, and it was great. It was just to see the fitness was coming along, getting ready for the trials.
The great thing about that day, is that it was in the middle of a training cycle for the big picture, which was the Olympic trials. And you were in the middle of an up week. When I mean this for athletes back home, she's running between 95 to 110 miles a week, and she's racing in the middle of that. Well, a lot of you guys, you may not be doing 95 to 110 miles a week, but you're going to be at high mileage in the middle of cross country, in the middle of track season. And what you do is you use these races as you're tuning up, you use them as workouts. And I recall, I think you stating that this was like a workout for you too, in the middle of the cycle that helped springboard you into the trials. One, it gave you confidence, but yet 2, you go on to the trials, and now I have been here. I have been with a lot of these big dogs now. How was that mindset coming into the trials? I know it's the trials. I mean, every 4 years you have that. So it's like, you're going to be nervous regardless. But did your tune-up race, and did that help kind of ease things up a little bit mentally?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the more practice you get it's just like those prep races in middle school and high school and college. The more practice you have at doing it, the more it has the chance to become second nature, so that your mind cannot get so frenzied of, oh, I'm so nervous and I don't know how I'm going to do. And that feels really scary. And I wish that I could take all those feelings away. And we gotta figure out how to channel all that energy to positive, to, okay, I'm excited. I'm here. I'm at the biggest race of my life. I'm at the Olympic trials. Like, there's the American flag. They're about to sing the national anthem. There's like all these fans in the city of Atlanta, and they're here for me. They're cheering for me. They're cheering for all these ladies out here that have worked as hard as I have and have gotten to this point. And many of them are moms just like me, and many of them are professionals. And like, this is just so cool. And so you're taking in like the race nerves, you're taking in the overwhelming feelings of like, I'm at the biggest point in my career, but yet instead of allowing all that emotion to overtake you, you try to just keep it down below the surface enough so that you can stay cool and calm and collected to be able to perform. And then as the race unfolds, you let that like slowly pour out.
And we were fans at home, and there was a lot of people, fans everywhere, and watched what you explained earlier. One by one, you're chipping away 1 mile at a time. You're in the 60s, 70s range, if I recall correctly.
Yeah.
And you're working your way up. You're in packs. It's a hilly course. PR was not really what you were thinking that day. It was more about place. It was more about being able to give the second half. And like you stated, what the wonderful part of that advice you were given is, you chip away one by one and look at the person right in front of you. And you did a fantastic job at that at the trials of chipping away and negative splitting that. So congratulations there. Gina, we want to thank you for coming on. This is some really, really awesome stuff. I hope to have you back on again down the road where we can kind of pinpoint your pro career a little bit more. Go dive into some of your training and stuff like that in the pro side. But we appreciate a lot of your high school input. We have a lot of high school, middle schoolers on here, and you take from this. It doesn't matter who you are within the ranks of your training or within the ranks of your team or anything. Hard work pays off. She was not always the number one runner on the team, and she had people just even when she became a number one runner, she had people she still looked up to and still followed and that's something to kind of take in when you're here today, is that hard work pays off. Always try to train to go up. That was one of the things today, and that was really awesome advice today to talk, to train up when you do get to that point, but yet still be disciplined to your training. Gina, thank you very much for your time, and tell the family hello, and we will be talking and chatting with you more soon.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.